for those of you who are fans of our show, we had a frequent guest, which we call a member of our focus group family, Jeff Yeager.
Cheapskate.
He was known as the ultimate cheapskate. He'd written a number of books about how to save money and how to retire wealthy. Was on the Today Show over 20 different times. Was on our show probably 8 to 10 times. And also was a spokesperson for AARP.
Had a series of
videos on how to save money. So he essentially made money by telling people how not to spend money. And
I love that. I like the way you. That was a good.
Well, you know, I tried. I
made
tried.
money by telling people how not to spend it. Yeah.
And so I realized I haven't heard from him in a while.
Last you heard from him, you talked to me about it because that was the mystery surrounding.
So I hadn't heard from him, and so I started poking around, and I Googled he's off social media. So I thought, well, that's kind of weird. So I started poking around. I found this article. This was from late January, early February in the Washington Post, and the headline is, "This couple is actually leaving the country because of President Trump." So he has decided, he and his wife Denise. They're both retired. They decided that they keep talking about all these different people that said they were going to leave the country. People said it when George Bush was elected, and people said it when Trump was elected, that they were going to move elsewhere. So it says here, Yeager, a self-employed writer, and his wife plan to spend the coming year roaming the globe in search of a new home where they will live for 4 years or possibly 8, depending upon if Trump gets reelected. He calls it Trumping out. He said it's sort of like an extended political camp. So they visited all over the world. They liked Ireland, but it looks like they're going to settle on Croatia, which is one of the places you could live as an American quite inexpensively, as well as there's not a lot of paperwork. A lot of people say, let's go to Canada. They said the amount of paperwork to go to Canada is crazy. So just to think you're just going to pack up and move to Canada can't happen.
It's not a permanent resettlement?
No, he said by no means are we going to give up our U.S. residency or our citizenship. He said our citizenship. But he said, and so then they cited a couple of other celebrities that said they were going to leave if Trump got elected. Samuel L. Jackson was going to South Africa. Amy Schumer was going to Spain. Lena Dunham was going to Canada. And Cher said she was going to Jupiter. You could have joined her there.
Dun.
So they said this was
joined her there.
This was similar to all the talk when people said they were going to leave if George Bush was elected. And they said there was really only one noted case. It was Pierre Salinger, who was the press secretary for Lyndon Johnson. He moved to France.
That's right.
So they did this whole story. They're going to rent out their house or sell their house to get rid of all their worldly possessions. They said that they live right now on less than $40,000 a year. Their mortgage is paid off. They said they're one of these few people in the country that could actually do this. They have health care from her job. She's a retired health and physical education teacher. So they have Social Security. They have a small pension. They've saved money. So it allows them to do this. And he's a writer. He said, I can write anywhere and I can lecture and do work. And they live on less than $40,000 a year. When they travel, he wouldn't be fun to travel with. They spend less than $100 a day. And they usually stay in youth hostels. They try to pick up meals now and then. They use something called couchsurfing.com.
Let's go back to your expression when you said the word youth hostel.
Because in college, I stayed at a lot of those. And you have to get up in the morning and clean.
You just did this there's a little grimace that you made, like, youth hostel.
You know they smell.
I've never been in one.
Oh, my God. You haven't?
No.
There's one in Philly we used to stay at when I was at Marietta College for rowing, and we used to take it over, and there would be all these young European backpackers there, as well as us, and you had to get up in the morning and clean. And
what did you clean?
You had to dust the place, clean. You had to clean like it was a working thing. You paid $3 a night, but then you had to do work. You had to do chores in the morning.
Oh, no. My idea of a flea bag / youth hostel experience is a Holiday Inn or something.
Right. So, so the interesting thing is, so I decided I'm going to call Jeff, and I wanted Jeff to come on the show and talk to us about it, just 2 or 3 minutes while they're leaving. So they've put their house in the hands of a realtor. They're heading off to Eastern Europe, probably Croatia, he said. So I asked him, I sent him a note and said, John and I would love you to have you come on and talk about it. So here's the note he sent back. Hi, Tim. Good to hear from you, and I'm so glad to hear that you and John are back on air live again. You guys are terrific at what you do. I've decided not to do any additional interviews about our personal views and our plans during the era of Trump. I don't regret doing the original interview for the Washington Post, and I knew it would spark some controversy, but the level of vitriol the story generated when it got picked up by Breitbart and other conservative outlets was, frankly, a stay-awake-at-night frightening experience, which has led me to be much more vigilant in protecting my privacy. I hope you understand. Good luck, and hopefully our paths will cross again someday during saner times. So I started reading some of the comments, and they were scary and threatening, a lot of them. A lot of them, goodbye, don't come back. Some said, oh, you should stay in the country and fight the good fight and fight against, reelecting somebody else you feel more in tune with. But he said that he was actually quite scared about what had transpired. And so he just said, I got off social media, I've stopped doing interviews, and we're just moving on. But they're packing up and leaving.